Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Governor Brad Little says there's about 6 million acres of land in Idaho labeled under severe risk for disease, insects, and wildfire. The Make Forests Healthy Again Act will allow state and federal agencies to collaborate to reduce fire risk across Idaho's federally managed forests. As summer approaches, Governor Brad Little says he wants to be proactive against wildfire risk by partnering with the U.S. Forest Service.
40% of Idaho is covered with forests, and much of it is federally managed forests that are not in good condition. And for too long, much of these forests have remained totally untouched, like for about 40, 50 years. And they've created a tinderbox of fuels that threatens communities, air quality, and our environment.
The Make Forests Healthy Again Act follows the Trump administration and the U.S. Department of Agriculture's recent efforts to enhance forest management by streamlining what they call heavy-handed federal policies.
Increasing timber harvest, restoring watersheds to support the industry, protecting communities, and making our national forests healthier, more resilient, and resistant to catastrophic wildfire.
Secretary Brooke Rollins from the USDA reports the United States 2023 wildfire hazard potential identifies almost 67 million acres of national forest land under a high fire risk.
We support the President's executive order. We support the Secretary's executive order.
Part of this emphasis on forest management from the White House also includes an increase in domestic timber production. Timber harvesting is one tool in fuels reduction strategies, which is why we asked the University of Idaho, what could this mean for forest conservation efforts?
I do really hear broad-scale agreement that we need to make sure that we're ensuring protection of streams, wildlife habitat, recreation access. We can do that while we are engaging in activities like timber harvesting, prescribed burning, and other means that we can use to reduce those wildfire risks on the landscape.
Dean Becker says across political spectrums on the topic, fuels reduction is top of mind as long as wildfire management is done thoughtfully.
Those fires burn in such a way that creates lots of property damage, that creates lots of damage to the resource base. That's really just a loss for everybody.
I did reach out to Governor Brad Little's team to learn which forests in North Idaho might see forest management efforts under this new act, but I am still awaiting clarification. Reporting right here in the newsroom, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
I'm next to the Corbin Arts Center, where crews have just wrapped up their cleanup efforts for the day. And they've made quite a bit of progress here on this 30-acre site. Just for some perspective, if you would have come here earlier this week before crews had started their work, you wouldn't have been able to see any of the ground here behind me.
Work here is part of a larger 450-acre fire fuel reduction project throughout Spokane County at Spokane City Parks. It's all funded by a $1.5 million USDA grant, along with a partnership between Spokane Fire, Parks and Rec, and DNR.
Unthinned, thinned, right? So you see the difference?
Nick Jeffries with the Spokane Fire Department is overseeing this cleanup project. He says the grant covers the initial cleanup work, but the Together Spokane bond and levy is needed to support future maintenance to keep neighborhoods safe from fires.
The grant is good for 5 years. Once that 5 years is gone, we're done. We won't have any more funding. So the reality is we need some long-term funding in the city and in the parks to be able to maintain what we're doing now. And again, it's still a fraction of the cost, but we need that levy to be able to maintain that cost.
The Together Spokane Levy and Bond is a historic joint effort with Parks and Rec and Spokane Public Schools, recommending several updates to Spokane schools, parks, and neighborhoods. The proposal will be on the ballot this fall. Once crews are done here at Edwidge-Wilson Park at the end of this week, they'll move on to Beacon Hill to clear about 280 acres and another 220 acres at Palisades and about 80 acres at Qualchin Park.
Above me is Cliff Drive, where of course we have beautiful views of Spokane. Now, the Together Spokane proposal suggests putting in a paved pathway from Cliff Drive through here down to Howard. So the cleanup effort here really brings that vision full circle, something to look forward to if that levy and bond package passes. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
For nearly 3 years now, United Way of Spokane County has partnered with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to get free books into the hands of children. But that could all end this summer. From first lessons to lifelong learning, there's more behind a book's cover than words and pictures. Just ask Daniel Dent.
I've never met anybody that could argue with the power of putting a book in a child's hand.
It's why Spokane County's United Way partners with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to deliver one book a month for free to children from birth to kindergarten. But now CEO Dent is more focused on numbers. These numbers.
If the state funding doesn't happen, and that ends at the end of June, then we would be faced with doubling the cost.
Right now, United Way sends stories to around 10,000 kids every month, with each book costing United Way just under $2. The state covers the other half, but that funding hasn't been secured in the state's next budget.
It would be this real, tangible, I believe, negative impact.
United Ways all across Washington now face the same troubling narrative: how to come up with enough money to cover the costs, or risk cutting the program. An anonymous survey showed caregivers in Spokane County told United Way the program inspired joy for reading, increased vocabulary. Some parents said it strengthened their bond to read with their children.
Books in the hands of kids and that engagement in learning at a really early age helps them get that best possible start in early learning.
There's talk lawmakers could set aside some money for the 49 Imagination Library programs statewide. Dent thinks maybe $1 million or $2.
But we're working off a $7.3 million fund afforded to us last time. It was really just to get the program going.
With the next chapter still unwritten, Dent's team is looking at all funding options in hopes they can keep this story going. State lawmakers do not have long to figure out funding this and all other state-backed programs. The biennial budget must be finalized by Sunday. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It has been a busy week all across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Well, Governor Little signed the bill last week, and it would prevent Idahoans from purchasing candy and soda with SNAP benefits. Items like candy and soda may no longer be on the shopping list for Idahoans on SNAP benefits.
Think the program's good and it's there for a safety net, and we should have that program. But I think, as far as giving poor health outcomes, which if you look at like the Women's Infant and Children Assistance Program, they don't allow for soda and candy, and they have significantly better health outcomes, and oftentimes that's a burden on the system when you have poor health outcomes.
Similar legislation has been popular nationally as part of Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement. State Representative Jordan Redmond wants Idahoans who are receiving benefits to have better health outcomes. According to a USDA report published in 2024, 40 cents per dollar went to basic items like meat, fruit, vegetables, milk, and eggs. 20 cents was spent on sweetened drinks, desserts, candy, snacks, and sugar, which Representative Redmond argues don't provide much nutritional benefit.
And I think we can all agree that soda doesn't have any nutritional value, right? And so it's probably just not a good thing to have on that supplemental nutrition assistance program.
Critics have said that the definitions of what qualifies as candy and soda are too broad and could unintentionally exclude things like granola bars. Others say the bill exerts too much government control.
although Redmond says the place for government reach is a federal program.
In regards to a government program, that's where we do have oversight. In the free market, I don't think we should have any oversight on that. Like, if you want to buy soda, candy, it's up to you, right? It's the free market. However, when it's a government program, that's where I do think we can have guardrails.
This bill is waiting on a waiver from the USDA that it expects to be granted based on previous support for similar bills across the nation. And if and when it is granted, this bill will go into effect July 1st. In Coeur d'Alene, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
Well, it was a packed crowd here inside of the Spokane Convention Center to hear former U.S. Representative Liz Cheney speaking. Nearly 1,000 people were in this room right here to hear that conversation. The former U.S. representatives covered several topics, including leadership and the future of politics in America. That includes touching on the losing of her seat as a U.S. representative and speaking out against President Trump after riots on the Capitol in 2021. As for the title of that speech today, it was pegged as Defending Democracy, a conversation with Liz Cheney.
Our freedom is a sacred gift. It's an inheritance that's been safeguarded and handed down to us, stretching back 250 years.
Cheney spoke for roughly 20 minutes before a Q&A session with Whitworth's president. A few key takeaways: she urged the room and American citizens to continue using their vote and to keep seeking the truth. She wrapped things up by saying communication with others who have different opinions or perspectives than you is important, stressing it's not abandoning your beliefs or your values, but it could just be an opportunity to learn from one another. For now, reporting here at the Spokane Convention Center, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
The FBI's Seattle office is now asking for help and information that could help them catch anyone who has been pointing those lasers at flights and pilots coming in and out of Spokane's airport. It may seem like a toy.
Right now we're getting hit pretty good with a green laser.
But hundreds or thousands of feet in the air, it can be a serious problem.
We want people to know this isn't just a harmless prank.
Federal investigators are on the lookout with a rise in people flashing lasers at aircraft in Spokane skies.
It's actually a trend that's been climbing since last year, but across Washington state, it's been over 100 incidents so far this year over the entire state.
FBI spokesperson Steve Burns says it's been happening in clusters in Seattle and Spokane County, from Hilliard to Green Bluff to 9 Mile Falls.
We're getting reports of incidents all across the county.
This is what that tiny point of light can look like from above.
As it refracts through the glass, it lights up the entire cockpit sometimes, making it can disorient the pilots, or if it hits them directly in the face, could injure them. And I don't want to be on a plane where the pilot can't see what's going on.
Spokane County law enforcement just arrested a 45-year-old man Friday for pointing a laser at a sheriff's office helicopter.
But we also feel there are other individuals out there that might have done this.
This is a federal offense, carrying a 5-year prison sentence and a $250,000 fine. If you have any information about any of these incidents, you can contact the FBI online right now at tips.fbi.gov or give them a call at the number on your screen. We also have all of this information at KREM.com. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Lithium-ion batteries are used across industries and products, but here in Pullman, at this lab right behind me, corn protein in combination with lithium sulfur batteries may just change the future of the battery game.
The energy density in terms of the basic performance of battery, lithium sulfur battery could have almost 5 times higher than lithium-ion battery.
But the problem? Their lifespan. According to Katie Zong, professor at WSU's School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering,
the potential of the lithium sulfur battery could be possibly commercialized.
She says lithium-sulfur batteries are more environmentally friendly and less toxic than lithium-ion batteries. But they're not used in mass production because they cannot hold their charge, which is why lithium-ion batteries have been the preference across companies.
We focus on the utilization of natural materials.
However, Zong and her team have found that a protective barrier made out of corn protein stops the batteries from losing their power. Now they can charge over 500 cycles, a significant increase.
It's biodegradable, it is environmental friendly, and it's sustainable compared to other industrial products.
So corn may be the solution for multiple problems. The Washington State Fire Marshal Office reports from 2022 to 2023, there were 1,200 incidents involving lithium-ion battery fires. And since 2015, the Federal Aviation Administration have observed a 388% increase in lithium-ion battery fires.
Lithium-ion batteries are everywhere. Literally, I'm wearing one right now.
Recently, Spokane County has also seen these lithium-ion battery fires. Brett Anderson from the Spokane Valley Fire Department told KREM 2, fighting fires caused by lithium-ion batteries is not that simple.
They have their own self-sustaining chemical reaction, and they make their own oxygen. So us putting water on it doesn't take the oxygen away because the chemical reaction's making its own.
Zong explains another issue with lithium-ion batteries is they use toxic chemicals and are limited in supply, as well as hard to dispose of.
Recycling is so hard. Two methods, either burn out, or dissolving, use toxic solvents.
Now, using the agricultural industry as a tool, she says this corn-based breakthrough could extend the lifespan of a lithium-sulfur battery while also addressing widespread safety concerns linked to lithium-ion batteries, all while being more sustainable.
Make use of this widely available biodegradable product.
Professor Zong says there's still much research to be done, but the next step would be for the university to approach companies to both collaborate and upscale their use of lithium-sulfur batteries in their products. I'm reporting right here in Pullman, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscast and weather forecast anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now here's one more story before we go.
I truly did not imagine this would be the program that it is today. My name is Suzanne Ostersmith, and I'm the founding chair of Gonzaga Dance. I started in 2000, and at that time there wasn't any dance. There were maybe a class a semester, and I was hired to come in and start teaching class, and the students seemed to really love it and had ideas and wanted to perform. And so after a couple years, I said, let's create this spring dance concert, and we've been going ever since. In those 25 years, we have created a dance minor and a dance major and a presenting series and new buildings, and it's a thriving program today. Trying to describe what's happened in the last 25 years is very difficult because so much has happened. So we have this wonderful timeline that kind of outlines key moments in the last 25 years with the hopes that then people will write and add things to it. We have over 60 alumni coming back for the spring dance concert. So we're gonna have pens available for them to say, I was here during this time, or I remember this. What's kept me going 25 years is truly the students. You know, I hate it when they graduate. I only have them 4 years and off they go, but then the next batch comes in and they're just inspiring what they're trying to learn or find out who they are. And then the other thing is that we've really gotten to try different programs and really explore dance as service and how can we use dance to serve our greater community in addition to the performances and everything else.
So this is maybe where Caroline could cheat it out a little bit.
Today we're celebrating the first 25 years because I think the next 25 are going to be dynamic. back. Yes, I am retiring, but Gonzaga Dance lives on. We have a wonderful new chair, Cynthia Gutierrez, who brings a whole wealth of experience in professional dance field that are going to take the students to the next level. It's been a glorious ride, and I look forward to continuing with arts advocacy work and staying in the field of art and being the biggest cheerleader that Gonzaga Dance has ever seen.
Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.